Welcome to the Jaron Jarvis channel. I am Jaron Jarvis. Today, I would like to introduce to you, the terrifying old farmhouse. Everything I'm about to tell you, could easily be explained away and dissed as BS, but hear me out. I was about 9 or 10, it was the summer before my 5th grade year. I had this friend, and for the sake of her privacy, we're going to call her Mary. Mary was my best friend at this time. We hung out almost every weekend and we shared a lot of the same interests, such as scary movies, swimming, and music. It was always a good time with her. One day, Mary invited me to go swimming with her and her sister at the pool that they go to. She was on a swim team at this country club her dad was a part of, and this was the first time I'd have ever been there. When we got there, the place was pretty nice and all we could see was the front of this old-fashioned farmhouse. Behind it was the gate to get into the pool area, lots of pool chairs, and to the left of the pool, towards the back area of the fence, was a sitting area for the swim meets. To the right, there was the back of the building, concessions and picnic tables, and a spiral staircase that went down leading into the house. It was obvious this was a private area. After like an hour of goofing off and swimming, we got out and decided to explore the building. Mary and her sister had told me that they believed this place was haunted prior to us going inside. I was and always kinda have been a nerd for everything paranormal, hence my love for scary movies. So at this point I was intrigued, and wanted to go inside. To be honest, I had never really had any paranormal experiences before that, so I really didn't even know what I was going in there to find. Going in, we entered through the bathroom first. Immediately, the place even looked haunted to me, and that feeling made me feel uneasy, and weird. Like I could feel my own weight in the room, oddly to say. The floor was covered with dark green roll-on carpet, you know, the cheap stuff, and the place was kind of dark despite the light from outside shining through the doorway. We all three stood there and talked about how scary it seemed being in there. Mary and her sister told me that a little girl was haunting that bathroom. I didn't know if it was true or not, but my 5th grade self obviously believed it. We carried on through the house until we got into the nice area of the house. The floors were now marbled cement, and the rooms were fairly large. We walked into an area where there was a sitting place in the big room to our left, with a wooden piano sitting to the left of the area where the chairs were. Straight ahead there was a yellow kitchen with what almost looked like a serving window that you would see in a restaurant. Through that you could see the fridge and a countertop, and a few cabinets. To the right of the sitting area was another room where sat a bar and lots of tables and chairs. This part of the house was the banquet, meeting, event area. Through the kitchen you came into this living room-like area, where sat a coffee table, a couch, some high-top tables, fireplace, and some old-fashioned decorations. On the right of the room, was spiral-like wooden staircase. What was upstairs was unknown and we were too scared to go up. We sat in that living room for a bit and goofed off. Eventually we ended up mocking the so-called ghost, and tried communicating with it. We seriously thought we knew what we were doing. When we got no responses, we would drift to other conversations and continued to be silly. But we suddenly heard something coming from upstairs. We couldn't put a name to the noise, and this house/building was so big and echoey that you could never actually know when people came in or where they were coming from. But this noise clearly came from upstairs. We called out for possible people in the house and got nothing. We decided to scope something out of this noise, so we all went up. I was the first to go up. The two sisters slowly trickled behind me, obnoxiously whispering and laughing out of thrill. The upstairs was surprisingly only 2 doors, no hallways or anything. And from the top step I could crouch down and look underneath the door cracks. I looked one time under one of the doors and saw slight movement of shadows. I immediately jumped back and gasped. We stood there for a moment and looked again, nothing. We called out to see if anyone was there, and nothing. At that point, we were a little freaked and went back downstairs. Then, we hear movement coming from the big room where the piano is. We dashed over and see nothing, but Mary's sister swore she saw movement from the dining room, behind the bar. We went to investigate, and the only thing we saw on the floor was a knife and some rubber gloves. Perhaps the server hadn't noticed they had fallen from the shelf when they left. After that we started explaining everything away, the noises, the creepy knife on the floor, the shadows under the door. We started making our way out, going out the way we came in through the bathroom. As we're almost out of there, I hear the piano playing, and what sounded like a female voice singing. I stopped and just looked at Mary. I went back and looked through the doorway into the big room, and saw nobody at the piano. The singing stopped, but the music continued. Just then someone came in through the front door, and the music stopped. All three of us ran out of there as fast as we could. Now, I'm well aware that you can set pianos to play on their own. But what explained the singing? Nobody was in that building with us. At least not from our knowledge. I will always question this place. I had only been there once, and I never want to go back again. A little after this stay, Mary and I researched the history of this building. It was a family farmhouse, where this family had grown corn on the land right beside them. This family was big, but the parents of them were murdered in their own cornfield, after the children had already moved out. The reasons were unknown, but the bodies were never found until 2 months after the murder. These people were nailed to crosses like scarecrows, and left there to die slowly for days. They weren't found for so long due to their house being so far from any road or town. The family name was Smith, and they died in the early 1900s by a man named John Hackins, who was the wife's previous husband, whom had killed a little girl they had together due to a hunting accident. I still have so many questions about that house. I'm 18 years old and I can remember that day so vividly.